The world never truly respects someone who constantly exhausts themselves just to please others. From childhood, we are taught to be warm, likable, and always available whenever someone calls. We are led to believe that if we are kind, tolerant, and patient enough, the world will eventually reciprocate with love and appreciation. But if you look honestly at your life, you will see a much more painful truth. The more available you are, the more you are taken for granted. The more you try to keep the peace through explanations, concessions, and endurance, the less you are understood. Then comes a very quiet night, when no noise can drown out the exhaustion within, and you begin to wonder if that unconditional kindness is silently stripping away your inner power. The truth is, when your peace depends on someone else's nod of approval, you have lost your freedom. A person's worth cannot be determined by a delayed text, a cold glance, or a fragment of external validation. There is a brutal rule most of us avoid. Value changes when access changes. When kindness is not guarded by boundaries, it rarely blossoms into appreciation. Instead, it easily withers into expectation. Once people grow accustomed to your constant presence, they no longer see it as a gift, but as a default. This is where disrespect begins, not with a bang, but with a silent erosion of your dignity. That is why you must learn a different kind of coldness. Not cruelty, but clarity. Not closing your heart, but guarding your inner flame with principles. Only when you dare to step back, to cut off the supply of boundless enthusiasm, will the world be forced to reevaluate your worth. And only from that moment does the real game begin. Part 1. The price of overavailability. Look deeply into the relationships you are pouring your heart into, and you may find a bitter paradox. The more available you are, the more you are taken for granted. When you reply to messages in seconds or set aside your own principles to be there the moment someone calls, you believe you are building a bond and earning loyalty. But human psychology rarely operates as beautifully as we hope. Our brains are wired to adapt. The easier something is to access, the less it is valued. Think of the background music playing on loop in a familiar store. No one hates it, but no one truly listens anymore. By constantly compromising and being perpetually on call, you are silently turning yourself into that invisible background noise. Warmth, unprotected by boundaries, never creates true love. Most of the time, it only feeds expectation. Look at the colleague who habitually pushes difficult tasks onto you, or the acquaintance who only seeks you out to dump their emotional chaos, then vanishes when you need a foothold. Sadly, your kindness begins to be seen as an entitlement. Beneath the mask of tolerance often lies a well-hidden anxiety, the fear of being misunderstood, rejected, or abandoned. You use your presence to keep the peace, and hurried nods or long-winded explanations to buy acceptance. But this attachment is quietly stripping away your dignity, piece by piece. To reclaim your standing, the first thing you need is not to become cold or cruel, but to become conscious enough to revoke the open access to yourself. Your time, energy, and attention are not public utilities for anyone to exploit at will. Next time an unworthy request knocks, slow your breathing. A message does not require an instant reply. A refusal does not need to be accompanied by an apologetic oration. In the beginning, cutting off this supply of boundless enthusiasm may feel empty, even guilt-ridden. But if you are steady enough to stand still in that discomfort, the world around you will be forced to pause. When you are no longer easily accessible, they begin to reevaluate your worth. When blind devotion ends, a quiet but formidable power begins. The power of the one who knows how to keep themselves. Part 2. Understanding coldness through the Stoic lens. Stepping through the threshold of refusal, you will encounter a concept most frequently misunderstood: coldness. To the masses, coldness is synonymous with cruelty, apathy, or building a thorny shell to push the world away. But through the Stoic lens, it is not a drying up of the heart, but a clarity of the interior. It stems not from bitterness, but from a profound realization. You no longer allow your value to be dictated by the warmth or indifference of others. True coldness begins the moment you stop living as a mirror reflecting the world's attitude and start living as a pillar, standing firm on your own principles. Examine closely how you navigate your daily interactions. The rushed replies, the long explanations for personal decisions, the habit of swallowing your opinions just to keep the atmosphere from turning awkward. These may look like grace or tolerance, but if you have the courage to peel back that beautiful layer, you'll often find an underlying anxiety seeking validation. You fear disappointing others, so you use kindness as a way to control how they perceive you. Kindness, born from the fear of losing approval, is never truly free. It is a fragile exchange where you mortgage your self-respect. Epictetus left a liberating reminder. If you wish to improve, be content to appear clueless or even foolish in the eyes of others. This isn't advice to be careless, but an invitation to self-mastery. No matter how carefully you explain yourself, someone will always misinterpret you or doubt your motives. Maturity begins when you stop exhausting yourself trying to correct every misconception. You say a clear, concise no, without an apology speech, not because you are heartless, but because you have stopped betraying yourself to buy acceptance. When you stop begging others to understand you, you truly begin to stand firm in what you understand. You can still care, still be kind, and still be devoted to what is worthy, but you no longer drain your soul just to keep someone from leaving. You nurture a relationship, but you do not collapse if the other person steps back. You say what needs to be said, but you no longer tremble at the possibility of being misread. This quiet detachment gives weight to your presence. Fewer words, but more truth. Deeper emotions, but no chaos. In the space, you no longer feel the need to fill to prove your worth. An ancient strength emerges. The power of intentional silence. Part 3. The power of the pause. That primal weapon does not lie in sharp words or perfect comebacks designed to win an argument. Real power, the kind that can completely shift the dynamics of a relationship, often hides in something much smaller: the pause before you react. It is in that seemingly empty moment that you reveal who you truly are: a person dragged along by the emotions of others, or someone steady enough to retain self-mastery. Most of us are accustomed to living in reflex mode. An unjust judgment from a superior, an unreasonable demand from an acquaintance, or a cold shoulder from someone we care about immediately triggers an internal urge to explain, apologize, or strike back to save the situation. In that instant, an old script silently runs through the mind. Don't let them misunderstand me. Don't let them be angry. Don't let me be rejected. And right there, you lose the upper hand. But if you can hold just 2 seconds of silence before speaking, that chain of reflexes begins to break. Those 2 seconds may seem trivial, but they are the boundary between impulsive reaction and self-control. When faced with the pressure to answer immediately, slow your breathing, steady your gaze, and do not rush to fill the suffocating space with hasty words. A person comfortable with silence creates a different kind of force field in a conversation. Your composure prevents the other person from easily controlling the rhythm of the dialogue. If they are heated, your calmness exposes their loss of control. If they are pushing you, your silence strips their attack of its momentum. Often, the other person will be the one to fill the void with unnecessary words, slips of the tongue, or a confusion they didn't realize they had. This silence is not a tactic to manipulate or annoy. It is a way to guard your dignity. It reminds you that you have the right to choose your response, rather than letting someone else's emotions decide for you. This stillness is not loud or flashy, but it creates an invisible weight that forces others to slow down in your presence. When you truly understand the power of non-reaction, you enter a deeper level of awareness, one where your nervous system is no longer pulled by the world's strings. From there, a brutal psychological law emerges. People only truly respect what they can no longer easily control. Part 4. The psychology of reaction and the access limit rule. Stillness does not just dampen the arrogance of others. It exposes a deep psychological mechanism. Whoever controls your reaction holds a piece of power over you. From childhood, humans are shaped by simple reward patterns. When you are obedient, you are praised. When you are sad, someone comforts you. Gradually, the nervous system learns to link emotion with reaction, turning many of our behaviors into automated loops. Consequently, if someone realizes that a sarcastic remark can send you into a defensive frenzy, or a cold attitude can make you panic and apologize, they have found the touch point to influence you. At that point, criticism is no longer just an opinion. It becomes a tool to pull your emotions in whatever direction they desire. To break that loop, you must establish a new law in your life: limiting access. This is not a game of manipulation. It is a decision to stop rewarding behaviors that erode your dignity. When someone repeatedly dumps unreasonable demands on you late at night, the way out is not necessarily a long argument, but simply no longer picking up the phone immediately. The strongest boundaries rarely come from high volume. They come from consistency. Next time you must refuse something that no longer fits, try saying clearly and concisely, "That doesn't work for me." You don't need to wrap that sentence in a thick layer of apologies. You don't need to rush to explain to soothe someone else's discomfort. Just be clear and let the silence do the rest. When you revoke the privilege of too easy access, the entire ecosystem of your relationships will begin to shift. Those who were used to your unconditional concessions will feel out of sync. Those who stayed only for convenience will reveal their true nature. But those who truly value you will learn to adjust and respect these new boundaries. This is the moment you stop being someone who is always available to be consumed and become a presence that is valued, limited, and principled. From that seemingly cold boundary, a beautiful paradox emerges. When you stop giving yourself away so easily, your kindness finally has the chance to be seen for its true worth. Part 5. The art of selective warmth. However, it would be a grave mistake to confuse silence and boundaries with closing your heart to the world. A coldness that completely strips away warmth does not grant power. It only causes the soul to wither and harbor bitterness. The goal of self-mastery has never been to turn you into an unfeeling block of ice, nor to erect permanent walls that no one can scale. The true purpose is far more subtle. To ensure your kindness is no longer issued as an unconditional reflex, but becomes a value bestowed in the right place, to the right person, and at the right intensity. Reflect on how you have given in the past. Perhaps there were times you offered your tenderness too cheaply, lowering your standards so that even the most superficial people could walk in and drain your energy. When kindness is distributed indiscriminately, it loses its weight. You give too much, too fast, and too broadly, only to find yourself left with exhaustion, disappointment, and sometimes even self-resentment. But when you begin to reclaim that inner flame, granting it only to those who show up with consistency, respect, and sincerity, everything changes instantly. Your care is no longer a desperate effort to be liked. It becomes an expression of a steady and clear inner self. The core of this art lies in the ability to regulate your own temperature. You can remain generous without being easy. You can be compassionate without tolerating disrespect. You can be warm without letting anyone take your presence for granted. When your warmth is no longer triggered automatically by every external signal, it begins to hold value. Others will sense that to enter that circle of warmth, they must approach with reciprocal kindness. Thus, your goodness is no longer something to be consumed, but a resource to be guarded and given with intent, making it deeper, truer, and far more precious. Part 6. Relinquishing attachment to results. This internal purification will eventually lead you to the most difficult stage of maturity, learning to let go of attachment to outcomes. True composure is never a cold performance to cut oneself off from the world, but the ability to pour your heart into what you do without shackling your soul to what you hope to receive in return. Observe closely the moments your mind becomes restless, when you need a message to be answered, a specific opportunity to be yours, or external validation to feel whole. The moment a simple desire turns into a survival need, you lose your footing. Your voice becomes hurried, your emotions become dependent, and you easily lower your standards just to hold on to something slipping away. This clinging, though masked as love or effort, always sends a weak signal that you are willing to trade your dignity to avoid the sensation of loss. Marcus Aurelius left behind a spirit very close to this core: to accept everything with humility and to let go without clinging. This is not an attitude of indifference toward life, but a high spiritual discipline. You still perform your role with all your heart and offer your most sincere efforts, but afterward, you stop forcing the world to respond according to your expectations. When someone chooses to leave, when an opportunity passes you by, or when your hard-earned efforts are met with silence, you do not deny the pain. You simply stop using that outcome to convict your self-worth. You return to others their right to choose, and you return to life what was never within your control. In this space, a different mindset begins to form. You still cherish what you love, but you no longer kneel before it in fear of loss. You can love without begging, strive without despair, and walk away without seeing any departure as evidence of your own inadequacy. This ability to not cling is one of the highest manifestations of inner freedom. It clears the fog of emotional dependency, helping you see people, circumstances, and yourself as they truly are. When you stop trying to borrow a sense of completeness from others, a profound tranquility emerges. From that place, you are not only more unshakable before life, but you enter a rare form of mastery, the mastery of your own mind. Part 7. Inner autonomy. At this threshold, you reach the highest state that Stoicism aspires to: inner autonomy. This is not the power to manipulate others, nor the ambition to bend the world to your will, but the ability to stand firm on the soil of your own mind, refusing to let any external circumstance easily invade. This is the quietest form of strength, yet the rarest. When you no longer live as a reaction to life, but live as a principle. When an unexpected storm hits, a betrayed promise, a turning away from someone you trusted, or a harsh judgment cast upon you, most people are immediately pulled away from their center. They rush to defend themselves, demand justice, or wallow in doubt and hurt. But an interior tempered by silence and boundaries reacts differently. You still feel the pain. You know where you have been touched, but you no longer grant the offender the power to control your emotional rhythm. What happens outside may create waves, but how you respond is what determines your dignity. To hold on to this inner throne, you must let your life be guided by principles, not by momentary impulses. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself of a simple yet strict rule. If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. In practice, this means when a relationship forces you to sacrifice self-respect for peace, you know how to step back. When a concession causes you to betray yourself, you know how to refuse. The coldness you have cultivated throughout this journey is not to turn your heart into stone, but to make that heart steady, bright, and alert enough to no longer tremble before every vibration of life. Eventually, you will realize you are no longer exhausted by trying to control how others see you. Your mind begins to rearrange itself into a new order. No more desperate chases for validation. No more hasty reactions to save your image in the eyes of others. Your presence takes on a different weight. Quieter, less frequent, but more real. It naturally retains what is sincere and repels what is superficial. And finally, you understand that a person's greatest strength does not lie in overwhelming the world with words, but in remaining upright, intact, and calmly being oneself amidst everything that has come, changed, and gone. True strength, in the end, has never been about closing off your heart to become unfeeling. It lies in the ability to keep that heartbeat steady amidst all of life's upheavals. It is the fortitude of one who knows when to open up, when to retreat into silence, and when to stand tall to guard their boundaries without a shred of guilt. Once you master that sharp balance, the invisible strings that once pulled you toward expectation, validation, and the fear of loss will begin to snap. You no longer live in a precarious state of chasing the world's reactions. Instead, you return to your rightful center, an inner self that is intact, composed, and unshakable by any pressure or departure. But the journey of building an invulnerable interior does not end with awakening. It is forged in silence, through every small choice. Every time you refuse to betray yourself, and every moment you maintain tranquility before what lies beyond your control. If this video has touched a deep part of you, do not stop here. There is another video appearing on your screen designed to take you even deeper into the journey of building unbreakable inner strength. Click on it and continue to walk alongside Stoic journey on the path of mastering your own self.